Across Europe's forests, the wild boar has become one of the most significant sources of conflict between humans and wildlife. Nowhere is this more evident than in Germany, where their population has surged to extraordinary levels. They threaten crops, compromise road safety, and slip quietly into residential neighborhoods. Each year, nearly 500,000 are culled, and still it is not enough to slow their astonishing rate of reproduction. Even Berlin, a modern capital city, and is home to an estimated 7,000 to 8,000 wild boars living among public parks and city blocks. This is not just wildlife living on the outskirts. This is wildlife moving in. So what allows a wild animal to challenge a modern nation? What gives it the strength to endure and to thrive despite every effort to contain it? This is not a hunt of chaos. This is a hunt built on silence and observation. The hunter must disappear into the landscape, becoming part of the forest itself, to remain unseen. And here, NEO Farm stands to witness and to tell the story, an ancient confrontation between humanity and the force of the wild. A story where balance, not conquest, is the reason this struggle continues, even today. For the farmer, the wild boar is not just a threat lurking in the distant woods. It is a constant uncertainty, a force that slips into every growing season and shatters months of hard work. In a single night, a sounder of boars can tear through an entire field, leaving the soil overturned, the ground ripped apart, as if a storm had passed through in the dark. Vineyards, wheat rows, fences, irrigation lines, all of it can be undone in moments. And that is why this hunt never begins with a chase, nor with the crack of a rifle. It begins with silence, where humans must learn to listen to the forest before they make their move. There is no sound. The forest settles into a natural silence, as if it is watching. The hunter does not move forward or disturb the stillness. He listens. He listens to the gentle shift of leaves, the soft scrape of soil being turned. Subtle signals that are more valuable than any map, because the goal is not simply to follow the animal's tracks, but to decipher the survival code of the wild boar, a creature so adaptive, so intelligent, that it can sense the presence of humans long before we ever see it. And at the core of this hunt, there is no trophy to display, no glory to seek. It is a duty to protect the land. In Germany, where more than 500,000 wild boars are controlled each year, and still their numbers continue to rise, they have become a true threat to agriculture. They break through fences, trample crops, and in a single night take away not only a farmer's labor, but their hope. This hunt has never been a game. It is the final barrier standing between devastation and survival, defending grain fields, vineyards, and the small towns that live from the earth. Each growing season carries the risk of damage, and the farmer must always be ready to face it. When the senses take the lead, a professional hunter does not look into the forest first. He looks to the ground. Because the forest does not speak through sound. The signs left in the soil and on the trees are the data he must read. A footprint is only the surface detail. What matters is understanding its time, how long it has been there, what direction it points to, and when the herd will return. Time tells the story of where the wild boar is, where it has been, and where it is likely to move next. In the borderlands where forest meets farmland, the fields of wheat, corn, and potatoes that help feed all of Germany, the signs are clearest at dawn. When the earth is still wet with morning dew, the uprooted patches of soil appear like gentle waves carved across the soft ground. And if the soil is still moist, still loose, untouched by the drying heat of the sun, it delivers a message as clear as any voice. The herd has only left within the past few hours. They haven't gone far. They are resting somewhere near the pines or the oak woods. waiting for dusk or nightfall to return again. Wild boars never come just once. To an experienced hunter, these are not simply traces of destruction. They are a schedule, a pattern of movement written into the land itself. But footprints are only the first chapter. The second chapter is written on the trees, where wild boars leave their invisible script. After rolling in cool, damp mud to protect their skin, they rub their sides, shoulders, and snouts against the bark. What seems like instinct is actually language. The height of the mud stain reveals the size of the animal. If the mark reaches only the height of a person's calf, it is likely a juvenile. But if the stain rises to the thigh or even the hip, it signals a full-grown male, heavy, powerful, and capable of inflicting serious damage on the fields. A hunter needs only a brief moment of stillness to measure these marks and sketch the size of the opponent without ever seeing it. And when many trees in the same area bear these marks at varying heights, it tells a larger story, not of one animal, but of a herd. A single tree with a few faint smears means 2 or 3 might have passed by. But a whole line of trees layered with mud marks means the herd has chosen this place as part of its route, and they will return. For the farmer, that is the first warning of a harvest at risk. And finally, there is the scent. The scent left behind by a female is different from that of a male. To most people, it smells only of soil and forest bark. But to an experienced hunter, it is the signal of a life cycle about to expand. If a breeding female is present, then in just a few months, the population will surge, and the damage to wheat, corn, and potatoes will multiply. This is why those who wait in silence do more than read the footprints in the soil. They read the history written on the bark of the trees. The marks on the wood and the ground reveal the story of the herd clearly to those who know how to see. And just as the hunter reads the scent on the bark, the wild boar reads the scent in the wind. But its sense of smell is far stronger than ours, able to detect human presence from a single passing breeze. That is why, in the art of silent ambush, the wind is not just weather. It is the boundary between success and failure. A lone hunter must always move against the wind, letting the current carry only the forest's scent toward him, never his own toward the animal. In the dense German woodlands, the path is never straight. It is curved, spiraled, or deliberate in its zigzag, slow, controlled, intentional. Because the moment the wind shifts, every trace, every plan, every hour of patience can vanish instantly. When that happens, the hunter does not force a confrontation. He resets, he begins again. Better to lose time than to be discovered. In this ancient contest, the victor is not the one who endures the longest, but the one who listens to the wind and lets the forest lead. When the wind has been understood, and the marks on the ground and on the trees have spoken, the hunter knows he has entered the wild boar's active territory. This is no longer a time for calculation or theory. This is the moment to become part of the forest itself. From here on, the hunter shifts into a state of concealment, dissolving his presence into the landscape. Every movement must be light, slow, and purposeful. The forest is sensitive. A cracked, dry leaf, a hurried breath, the faint rustle of fabric. Any of these could cause the wild boar to vanish like a shadow. This is where hunting becomes silence, and survival becomes awareness. From here, the hunter moves slowly, reducing sound to the lowest possible level to avoid detection. No stepping on dry leaves, no snapping twigs, no signal that might warn the animal. They never walk directly along the wild boar's trail, because that is where the animal is most alert. Instead, they track parallel to it, maintaining just enough distance to remain unseen, yet close enough to follow the direction of movement with precision. Their destination is not the animal itself. Their destination is the crossing point, where the wild boar's trail intersects with an open line of sight, often along the edges of wheat, corn, or potato fields they have damaged before. That is where the moment will happen, without warning, without noise, without a second chance. Silent ambush is not about pursuit. It is the discipline of remaining unseen, waiting for the precise instant when intervention can change the fate of an entire season. And once the movement has settled, when the wind is steady and the body has dissolved into the rhythm of the forest, the hunter reaches the final step, choosing where to stop. In the farmlands of Germany, where dense woods press against open fields, you'll find silent sentinels rising above the tree line, raised stands and weathered towers built by generations of hunters. From up there, high above the ground, a hunter leaves no scent, stirs no twig, and commands a sweeping view of both forest and field. Every angle tells a story. Every shadow hides a possibility. These towers are never placed at random. Each one marks a promise, set near watering holes where life gathers at dusk, or beside the churned earth of feeding grounds where wild boars return night after night. These are the invisible borders of their world, the places claimed, defended, and revisited again and again. To the trained eye, such signs speak louder than any sound. But the right position alone is not enough. Timing, that's what separates the seasoned hunter from the novice. There are only two sacred windows each day when the balance tilts in the hunter's favor: dawn and dusk. In those fleeting hours, the forest breathes differently. Mist curls low along the ground, the light softens, and everything seems to hover between worlds, half seen, half imagined. Shadows stretch thin, colors fade to gray, and the air carries even the smallest sound farther than you'd think possible. This is when the wild boar grows cautious, relying not on its sight, but on the keen edge of its sense of smell. The very sense the hunter has already countered by moving with the wind, not against it, and by walking as if the earth itself carried him forward. So in the end, a silent ambush is not about waiting. It's about listening. It's about syncing every heartbeat with the forest's pulse, letting the world slow until light, air, and breath align. When that moment comes, when the line between human and nature blurs into a single heartbeat, there is no fear, no noise, no hesitation. Only awareness, only respect, only that fragile instant when two worlds meet and hold each other's gaze in perfect stillness. The waiting ends. When the wild boar steps into view, everything that has been prepared, reading the tracks, managing the wind, choosing the position, and blending completely into the forest, converges into a single moment. Here, the hunter cannot rush. A decision is made only when the sight is clear and the surroundings are safe, because the purpose of silent ambush is not triumph, but responsible population control. The wild boar may bring heavy damage to the fields, yet it is still a part of the ecosystem, and every choice must hold that balance. In the tensest moments, when the possibility of counter-movement or surprise arises, the hunter prioritizes distance and safety, using the terrain, the trunk of a tree, the slope of the ground, to avoid direct conflict. Every action must be deliberate, careful, and accountable. This is not a hunt for glory. It is the human being standing before the wild with clarity and humility, protecting the crops, the land, and the fragile balance between people and the forest.
Ouais. Ah, viens les gros là, oui. Ah, viens les gros là, oui.